Have you ever been told, "You're so mature for your age," and somehow it never felt like a compliment? Maybe you were the child who stayed quiet to keep the peace, the one who noticed everyone else's emotions before your own, the one who learned that being helpful, calm, and strong was the safest way to be loved. And now, as an adult, you feel tired in a way that rest does not fully fix. You overthink, you struggle to relax, you feel guilty for having needs. You carry responsibility like it is part of your identity. If that feels familiar, you may not have simply grown up early. You may have survived by doing so. In psychology, one word for this is parentification. Parentification happens when a child is pushed into roles that are emotionally or practically too heavy for their age. Sometimes that means caring for siblings, managing conflict at home, or becoming the emotional support system for a parent. Sometimes it looks quieter. The child becomes the easy one. They stop crying, they stop asking for much. They become mature not because life taught them wisdom, but because life demanded self-control before safety. And over time, that child does not just act older. Their mind and body begin organizing around survival. This is the psychology of a child who grew up too fast. Why it happens, how it shapes the nervous system, relationships, and self-worth, and how healing begins. When a child grows up in an environment where emotions are ignored, love feels unstable, or adults are unpredictable, the child adapts. Children cannot simply leave unsafe emotional environments. So they learn to read them. They study tone of voice, facial expressions, silence, the mood in the room. They learn what keeps the peace, what avoids conflict, what earns approval, what prevents abandonment. This is not maturity in the healthy sense. It is adaptation. A child in this environment often becomes hyper-aware because awareness feels protective. If I stay useful, maybe I stay safe. If I stay agreeable, maybe I stay loved. If I need less, maybe I become easier to keep. And slowly, a painful belief begins to form. My worth is in what I can carry. This is why some children seem unusually responsible. But what looks like strength from the outside is often self-abandonment on the inside. Healthy emotional development needs safety. It needs adults who help a child name feelings, repair conflict, and learn that emotions are not dangerous. Without that, a child may skip emotional dependence and move too early into self-management. Too much, too soon. And the nervous system remembers. Attachment theory helps explain this. Our early relationships shape how we experience closeness, trust, and safety. When caregivers are emotionally available, a child learns. I can feel, I can ask, I can need, and someone will respond. But when care is inconsistent, rejecting, or absent, the child often builds strategies instead of security. They may become anxious, constantly scanning for signs of distance, or avoidant, suppressing needs because needing feels unsafe. So when a child grows up too fast, their internal map of love changes. Love can start to feel like performance. Rest can feel undeserved. Asking for help can feel shameful. And receiving care can feel unfamiliar. There is also a nervous system layer. When stress becomes chronic in childhood, the body can become wired for vigilance, not only for obvious danger, but for emotional danger, criticism, withdrawal, coldness, unpredictability, so the body stays alert. This often shows up in survival responses: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And many children who grew up too fast become experts at fawning. They read the room. They soften themselves. They over-explain. They apologize quickly. They become who others need them to be. Because at one time, that strategy protected connection. The problem is, the body may keep using that strategy long after childhood is over. This is why adulthood can feel confusing. You may know logically that you are safe now, but your body still reacts as if love can disappear the moment you disappoint someone. One of the clearest signs of this is people-pleasing. Not simple kindness, not generosity from choice, but the compulsive need to manage how others feel about you. You say yes when you mean no. You overgive and feel resentful later. You feel responsible for other people's emotions. You struggle to set boundaries because guilt feels stronger than your own exhaustion. Another common sign is difficulty trusting others. You may want closeness, but not know how to relax inside it. You may choose hyper-independence, not because it feels good, but because it feels familiar. Depending on others may feel dangerous. Receiving support may trigger guilt. Even in loving relationships, you may still feel emotionally alone because your system learned early that your deeper needs would not be met. Then there is emotional suppression. Many adults who grew up too fast struggle to identify what they feel in real time. Not because they lack emotion, but because their emotions were inconvenient or unsafe to express. So instead of feeling, they learned to function. Instead of asking, they learned to endure. Instead of falling apart, they learned to appear stable. This often creates a painful split in adulthood. You can be capable, reliable, high-achieving, and deeply disconnected from yourself. You may not notice your needs until burnout forces you to stop. And burnout is common, because children who grew up too fast often become adults who do not know when enough is enough. They push through fatigue. They minimize pain. They confuse overfunctioning with worth. They become the dependable one, the strong one, the one who can handle everything, until one day they cannot. And when that collapse comes, it often feels like failure. But it is not failure. It is often the first honest signal your system has sent in a very long time. This is also why anxiety and depression can become part of the story. Anxiety because the nervous system has been trained to anticipate pressure, conflict, or abandonment. Depression because a life built around survival can slowly disconnect you from play, desire, rest, and emotional aliveness. Sometimes what looks like perfectionism is fear. What looks like detachment is shut down. And what looks like maturity may have begun as grief. Grief for the childhood you did not get to have. Grief for the softness you had to give up. Grief for the version of you who learned too early that love had conditions. So how does healing begin? It begins by stopping the habit of romanticizing how well you adapted. Yes, your adaptation was intelligent. Yes, it may have helped you survive. But survival strategies are not always meant to become lifelong identities. The goal is not to erase your strength. The goal is to make sure strength is no longer the only part of you allowed to exist. First, start noticing where responsibility becomes self-erasure. Where do you automatically care for others before checking in with yourself? Where do you overfunction, overgive, or over-explain? Where do you confuse guilt with goodness? Awareness matters because patterns cannot change while they remain invisible. Second, learn to notice your nervous system, not just your thoughts. Instead of asking, "What is wrong with me?" try asking, "What state am I in right now? Am I activated? Am I shut down? Am I trying to earn safety again?" That question creates space between your adult self and your older survival reflex. Third, practice small acts of honest self-expression. Simple sentences like, "I'm tired. I can't do that today. I need some space. That hurt me." For someone who grew up too fast, these are not small sentences, or they are acts of repair, because they challenge the old belief that love must be earned through self-silencing. And finally, make room for the child in you who never got to simply be. Not to become childish, but to become whole. That may mean rest without justification, play without productivity, grief without shame, compassion for the parts of you that still expect abandonment whenever you have needs. Healing the inner child is not pretending the past did not hurt. It is giving yourself now what was missing then: permission, protection, attunement, and care. If you grew up too fast, there is a chance people praised you for the very thing that wounded you: your independence, your composure, your ability to carry more than a child should. But surviving beautifully does not mean it was easy. And it does not mean you were never allowed to need help. You were a child. You deserved softness too. And even now, you do not have to keep proving your pain by staying strong all the time. Sometimes healing starts here, with the quiet decision to stop abandoning yourself just to be loved. And maybe that is what real maturity is. Not carrying everything alone, but finally learning that you were never supposed to